Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating topics in geography, the dividing lines between the continents. Ever wondered how the world's landmasses are split up, or why some boundaries are clear while others are, well, a little more complicated? Well, you're in the right place. Understanding continental boundaries first, let's break down the basics. A continent is typically defined as a large, continuous area of land that's separated by oceans. But here's the thing, there's no universally agreed upon way to divide them. While there are 7 commonly recognized continents, the boundaries that separate them vary depending on the source. Some are based on physical geography, like oceans and mountain ranges, while others are cultural or political. The common dividing line. Let's take a look at some of the more famous dividing lines between the continents. First up is the boundary between Asia and Europe. This is one of the most debated divides. The line traditionally runs through the Ural Mountains in Russia, the Caspian Sea, and the Caucasus. Some even argue the boundary runs through the Bosphorus Strait in Turkey, making Istanbul both a European and an Asian city. The fascinating thing is, this divide is more cultural and historical than physical, as these two regions share a lot of geography, but have very different cultural identities. Next, Africa and Asia, separated by the famous Suez Canal, which not only divides the continents but also acts as a major shipping route connecting the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. The Suez Canal, separating Africa and Asia. This waterway, stretching 120 miles across Egypt, connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. And here's the kicker, it's not just a geographical divide, it's one of the busiest shipping routes in the world. Before the Suez Canal, ships had to navigate all the way around the southern tip of Africa, adding thousands of miles and weeks to their journey. Built in 1869, the Suez Canal was a game-changer for global trade, cutting down the distance between Europe and Asia drastically. The canal also plays a key role in the global oil market, with a huge percentage of Europe's oil passing through. But the Suez isn't just about trade, its location has made it a strategic military and political asset, leading to historical conflicts, like the 1956 Suez Crisis, when Egypt nationalized the canal and caused international tension. Today, the Suez Canal remains a vital link in the global supply chain, and it continues to shape the economic and political landscape of both Africa and Asia. Then we have North and South America. You'd think the line is clear, right? But here's the interesting part, the boundary that separates them is the Isthmus of Panama, a narrow strip of land that's home to the famous Panama Canal, which is one of the greatest engineering marvels in human history. Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, another iconic waterway that divides North America and South America. This one is located right at the narrow Isthmus of Panama, and it connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, cutting down the time it takes for ships to travel between these two oceans by about 8,000 nautical miles. Construction of the Panama Canal was one of the most ambitious engineering projects of the early 20th century. It started under the French in the late 1800s but was eventually completed by the United States in 1914. The canal was initially a major strategic and commercial asset, allowing the U.S. Navy and merchant ships to quickly move between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, especially important during military conflicts like World War II. And just like the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal has been a powerful geopolitical tool. Today, the canal remains a critical shipping route, especially for bulk goods like oil, grain, and consumer products. And of course, we can't forget Australia and Asia, divided by the Arafura Sea and the Torres Strait. This boundary marks not only geographical separation but also cultural distinctions between the two. Now, let's talk about the dividing line between Asia and North America, which isn't as commonly discussed as other boundaries, but it's still a fascinating one. This boundary is most famously marked by the Bering Strait, a narrow stretch of water that separates Russia from Alaska in the United States. The Bering Strait is only about 50 miles, 80 kilometers, wide at its narrowest point, and it's located between the easternmost part of Russia's Siberian region and the westernmost point of Alaska. Now, while it physically separates Asia from North America, this region has a much deeper history. Thousands of years ago, during the last ice age, the Bering Strait was actually a land bridge, known as Beringia, connecting Asia and North America. This allowed early humans, believed to be the ancestors of modern Native Americans, to migrate from Asia into North America. The land bridge eventually sank as sea levels rose, creating the Bering Strait we see today. Today, the Bering Strait is still an important geographic feature. In fact, it's one of the few places where, theoretically, you can walk or drive between the continents. The region is sparsely populated, but it has been a critical cultural crossing point for indigenous groups who have lived in the region for thousands of years. The blurry boundaries now, while some boundaries are easy to spot, others are a bit blurrier. For example, the line between Europe and Africa isn't just the Mediterranean Sea. The geographical concept of Europe is more tied to history and culture than physical features. In some ways, parts of Europe could be considered part of Africa due to the proximity and shared history. Another interesting case is the boundary between the Arctic and Antarctic regions. Both aren't continents in the traditional sense but are often considered separate due to their extreme climates and ecosystems. The Arctic, in the north, is made up of oceans surrounded by landmasses, while the Antarctic in the south is an icy landmass surrounded by ocean. These boundaries are pretty much defined by the Earth's poles. The dividing lines between continents are not just physical, they're influenced by history, culture, and even politics. The world is more connected than ever, but these lines still matter in shaping our societies. What do you think about these boundaries? Do you agree with how we've divided the continents? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.